Hi, we're talking to awesome people today, and our guest is Dr. Galipo, an amazing doctor of Oriental medicine. So let's check her out. Hi, Janet.
Good morning.
It's wonderful that you're here. Thank you so much for your presence in this interview.
Thank you, Paola. It's always a wonderful experience to be with you, your beautiful energy, and I'm happy to be here with you today answering some questions, I think, about Chinese medicine, amongst other things.
Thank you. So for those of you who don't know Dr. Galipo, she is my mentor in energy medicine. I took a lot of courses with her, learned a lot from her wisdom, and some things that really called my attention are the basis of the questions that I'm going to ask her for our content here. So the first thing that I would like to ask, and I think people will be so interested in this, is the uniqueness of Chinese medicine history. And can you please just tell us how ancient it is and how they observed the human body in living situations, people who were ill, but they were alive, because a lot of medicine is also structured with people who are already dead. So can you just tell us the difference in how you see Chinese medicine?
Of course. Well, you know I love talking about Chinese medicine. It's one of my favorite subjects. And Chinese medicine is very old. We don't know how old. So some people quote it as being 3,000 years old, some people 5,000 years old, some people even 10,000 years old. And believe it or not, they have actually found needles made out of stone in, of all places, Italy. And they believe that those stone needles are over 5,000 years old. So somehow, although we always equate Chinese medicine with being in China and in Asia, it made its way to Italy thousands of years ago, and they were even using it then. So the thing about Chinese medicine that I always like to point out is that, yes, when people were studying the human body back then, Chinese doctors, and by the way, the Chinese doctors were scholars. So here, you know, we have in our medical profession a requirement that people attend medical school and they become experts in medicine. But back then, thousands of years ago, people had to be philosophers and poets. So the Taoists were actually the originators of Chinese medicine, and of course that meant that they had to know how to read, they had to be able to read ancient texts, and then they had a background in Chinese philosophy, poetry, and the higher arts, usually before they became Chinese medicine doctors. And so what they learned is they learned by observing the human body, and it is kind of a miracle that the Chinese doctors were able, through many, many generations of knowledge, of recording knowledge, and also of oral tradition passed down from one generation to the next, that they were able to know so much about the human body. So, as you mentioned, the Chinese doctors didn't really cut into the human body. I think part of that was based on Taoist philosophy, also Buddhist philosophy, which was prevalent in China at the time, that the body was something sacred and that you didn't, cut it up or do autopsies or things like that. And so they needed to spend their time really observing what worked. And somehow, with all of that, they were able to conceive and create the Chinese acupuncture system, which is 12 meridians, with over 400 points, and that system holds its value and its truth and its efficacy today.
That's so beautiful, and the results are incredible. I've had acupuncture sessions my whole life, and we all know that it's a very valid, beautiful system. And to me, what the most of the beauty comes from the fact that it's natural. It's very connected to nature, and that whole poetic aspect of it is just, to me, mind-blowing. So I wanted to ask you, in that kind of perspective, can you tell us what you think about our natural abilities of self-healing, including the BodyTalk system, which part of it has a Chinese medicine background, and how important it is to be connected to nature for healing and also to be healthy and to preserve health?
Well, if we look at the Chinese system, of course, we're always looking at yin and yang, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the balance of the two opposing forces in the body. And one way we could look at that is the balance of the kind of warming, heating energies with the cooling, liquid, hydration energies of the body. So that's one way of viewing the human body. The Chinese also viewed the body in terms of the 5 elements. And so they were always talking about the fact that there are the 5 elements in nature. Mm-hmm. All we have to do is go outside and we see the sun, we see the water element, we see the trees, which represent the wood element, which are our oxygen supply. We see the metal element, which is the air element in Chinese medicine, but also the minerals that hold the soil together. And of course, we see our beautiful earth element, the earth that we stand on. And so the idea here is that we have all of these elements within us. And when something is out of balance in the body, that's when we begin to experience symptoms. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the beauties of natural healing is that they're working with the innate ability of the human body to balance all of those elements in order to restore healing. And we know that the body has an amazing innate ability to heal. So we see this all the time. Mm-hmm. I always like to use the example of, if somebody goes to the hospital, if they have a surgery, then of course, they can have the best surgeon of the world in the world. But unless there is somebody there, inside the human body that's really managing all of the different healing mechanisms, immune system cells, leukocytes, all of the innate and adaptive immune system of the body. It's kind of like the inner conductor. So unless the inner conductor is there inside the human body to facilitate the healing process, then even if the person has had the best surgeon in the world, that person is not going to heal. So we know that the human body has this amazing innate healing capacity. And many times, if we just leave the body alone without interfering, the body is very much able to heal itself.
Amazing. So is it okay to say that ultimately who does the healing? Your human cells, your natural ability of self-healing.
Exactly. So we always say that when healing happens, it's an inside job. Yeah. So no matter how great the therapist is, and you can have amazing therapists. There are so many beautiful healers in the world who heal in so many different ways, sometimes through, surgery, sometimes through other interventions, sometimes through hands-on healing, manual therapy, energy-based therapy, all these beautiful healing systems. But unless the inner chi, the inner energy, the inner conductor of the person is alive and well, then it doesn't matter how great the healer is, the person will not heal. So healing always comes from the inside. We are able to heal ourselves.
Incredible. Thank you. Next question. Can you tell us your perspective about chemicals, cosmetics, and the consumption of industrial products in general? Since we're talking about nature and our innate abilities of self-healing, these new habits of consuming artificial things, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think, it's been difficult for us to adjust in this generation to the fact that there are a lot of new chemicals and that, in order to get consumer goods to people, in order to deliver food, to a large population, in order to deliver products, appliances, and all of the things that we depend on as part of modern living, that we've had to create a lot of new chemicals in order to preserve things, in order to manufacture things, in order to sort of expedite the process of the delivery of medicines, foods, and other consumer goods to people. I'm talking specifically now about the United States, although of course this applies to other cultures as well. So we know that in the U.S., I believe that about 2,000 new chemicals are produced and approved every year. And some of these chemicals have to go through a vetting process, but other people say it's not really long enough, and we don't really understand the long-term effects of a lot of these chemicals that are occurring, outside of the human body. So of course, now we know that we have a lot of different environmental illnesses. And so one of the theories behind that is becoming, more or less accepted, amongst certain medical circles, is that some of these chemical contaminants are entering our bodies through our air, if there's polluted air, or through the water, if the water supply is contaminated, and also through other products. for example, our cleaning products. So, we love to think that we're going to be clean in our homes, and, we sometimes use a lot of heavy chemicals. But, in many cases, these products are deadly poisons. They have so many different chemical agents in them. And then people use them not understanding, thinking, oh, they're coming in a pretty bottle, we're buying them at the supermarket, and it's to keep everything very clean in our house. And actually, they may be using them with bare hands, and, chemicals are penetrating into their bodies through the skin, which is porous. It's part of our body's respiratory system, actually. So all of these things, and then of course we have the cosmetics industry, and as women, we're very sensitive about this because, especially as we get a little bit older, we want to enhance our appearance. We want to use, a few cosmetics, but we don't understand that sometimes they have lead, they have, all kinds of heavy metals in them, as well as different chemicals that are being, created in the laboratory and put into these products, and they have beautiful packaging and they have good company names, and we like to think, oh, they're safe, but we're not sure. So I always say that what they have found is that the average person has about 200 common toxic chemicals in them. And this is out of thousands of chemicals, and so these are coming from, air, from water, from using plastic products, from preservatives in food, and also from things that our skin is coming into contact with, including personal care products, makeup, and also these other things that we're talking about, cleaning products, etc. And so all of these chemicals are here, and they really weren't here a generation ago or 2 generations ago. So we don't really know what the effects are on the human body. We're not sure. We like to think that our body can handle them, and it is true that the human body is a kind of miracle in its adaptive powers, and it's always trying to adapt to the circumstances that it finds itself in, including these new things, these new chemicals coming into the body. But then again, we may exceed our capacity to adapt. And when we exceed our capacity to adapt, one of the medical terms for that in environmental medicine is something called body burden. So then we say that the person has a high body burden, meaning that they're just being exposed to too many chemicals coming in from all sides. So I always recommend for people to try to take a natural approach to healing. I think it's so good. So, we look at, trying to drink clean water, trying to breathe clean air. I think we're very lucky in South Florida as far as that goes, because I think we have a very good, healthy air supply. I think because we have, the ocean and also the bay and lots of clean air coming in, over the water, that we do have clean air. And of course, with water supply, many times we recommend water filters for people to make sure that they are filtering out some of the major toxins. Also, if people want to use cleaning supplies, makeup, these kinds of personal care items, we're always suggesting that we try to go organic when at all possible. So, the organic industry is expanding, every day, and they're really perfecting those organic products. It's beautiful to see. And I think in the U.S. we have so many great organic product options. So that's always my recommendation.
That's great. And I think about lifestyle tips, for example, using vinegar and baking soda instead of chemicals.
Of course.
For your steel things, your kitchen, or even your bathroom, or even homemade body butter with raw shea butter. You would recommend that, I believe, right?
All of those homemade products. And this is what our grandmothers use. This is what our great-grandmothers use. And everything worked very, very well back then. So yes, whenever we can use those natural alternatives, especially homemade alternatives, it's great.
Awesome. Thank you. So speaking of that, lifestyle tips, can you teach us about the importance of ingesting vegetables and the temperature of food in Chinese medicine, the internal temperature of the body, and why teas and soups and broths are so important in Chinese medicine? And it's something I learned from you and that I embraced in my lifestyle. And I believe it's wonderful for everyone to know about it.
Well, we know that fresh food is very important, and there are a lot of different theories about food and diets now. There are a lot of different dietary approaches. So, we know that you have eat right for your blood type. We know that there's the ketone diet, there's the paleo diet, there's vegan, there's many, many different dietary approaches. And so I always say I don't recommend one particular diet for everyone because everybody's a little bit different. And people digest their food differently. People have a different different approach to food. People were raised with different food. For example, Brazil, one of my favorite countries to visit. So I always say that Brazilians are able to digest raw food very, very well. Because one thing I've noticed from spending so much time in Brazil, and especially in Rio, is that there's a fresh fruit stand on every corner. So, you know, in the morning here, people are clustered at Starbucks, right? That's kind of our coffee culture. But in Brazil, people are there at the beautiful fruit stands. And usually they have 100 to 200 different kinds of fruits, fresh fruits, and also vegetables that they're juicing in any kind of combination. And I love going down there in the morning and just seeing everybody with their fresh fruit juice. You know, and they have maracujá, you know, and abacaxi, and then kale is mixed in there with mint, and, you know, all the different wonderful fruits and vegetables. And I think it's a really beautiful way to start the day. So I always recommend that people eat at least one fresh fruit or vegetable every day, and hopefully one fresh fruit and vegetable every day. And of course, we don't have time to go into all the amazing nutrients that are in these fresh fruits and vegetables, you know, even in the skin. But they do incredible things for the human body, and we need to have fresh food, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables in order to metabolize our nutrients and in order to have a proper nutrient balance in our body. So that's one of the things. You know, we're always looking, you know, in energetic medicine at the vitality of the food. So it's not just about reading labels. It's not just about going to the supermarket and looking in the frozen food bin or the canned food bin and saying, oh, you know, there's 10% vitamin C in here. Because, you know, canned and frozen foods don't have the same vitality, the same quality that a fresh fruit and vegetable has, and they're not broken down the same way in the body. So we're always recommending, please try to eat fresh. I know that one of my heroes, Annie Fonfa, who runs a beautiful conference every year called the Annie Appleseed Conference, and it's all about holistic cancer and cancer prevention, always says the one thing that you can do for yourself every day to prevent cancer is to eat one fresh fruit and one fresh vegetable a day. It can be cooked, it can be raw, it should be organic, and that goes a long way to creating a really healthy internal balance within the body, which helps to fight off cancer cells. So that's one thing. Yes, you mentioned the temperature of food. So you know that, you know, we always talk about this in Chinese medicine, and we look at the fact that the body, I mean, if you take your temperature, it's around 98 degrees Fahrenheit, right? And so that means the internal temperature of the body is a little bit higher than that. It's about 100 degrees Fahrenheit inside of our body. So that's warm. And if we think about 100 degrees Fahrenheit when we go outside in South Florida, that's really super hot. So the point is that our body likes to be warm. It likes to be hot inside, and it does prefer warm foods. So I know I just got through saying it's fine to have a raw vegetable every day, and juice is fine. But again, in part, the Brazilians grew up with a raw food background. And so they actually have the enzymes produced by the pancreas that are necessary in order to digest raw fruits and vegetables. Many times people who were not raised that way have a little bit of a challenge if they eat too much raw. So it can give them, you know, some stomach aches and, you know, some other symptoms. So we know that we have 100 degrees inside. We know the body loves warm food. I always say the body loves warm, mushy food. So, you know, in Chinese medicine, if somebody is weak or they're not digesting their food well, oftentimes we recommend rice congee. So that's one of the things, that's one of sort of the secrets of ancient China. So they would have them make, it's a kind of rice soup where the rice cooks a long time, and you can put vegetables in there, you can put herbs, you can even put like chicken and different things, and everything is very broken down, and it means that the soup is highly absorbable to the body, and it's warm. So when it gets down there, the stomach says, thank you.
It's kind of a little spa for the body, I would say, right? Exactly. Internal spa for the body. All right, Janet. It's wonderful because Janet is a doctor of Oriental Medicine, and she's a BodyTalk instructor. So we're just so privileged to have her here talking about these wonderful things. My last question to you is, how can people educate themselves more about a healthy, natural lifestyle? And do you suggest courses like BodyTalk Access and San Baio to people who are not energy medicine practitioners, but who wish to have a healthy lifestyle and provide a broader range of options, healthy options for their families?
Yes, thank you. It's a great question. And yeah, we always believe that people should have some kind of health empowerment for themselves. I think it's very important. It's specifically important, I think, for mothers with children, because if we look at, children growing up and all the different stresses and the things that can happen on a daily basis, I treat a lot of children here, and children, even little kids are very stressed out these days. They go to school and, the teachers are trying to keep order and there's a lot of homework and then there's sports and then there's a full schedule and children are sort of trying to maintain, their own personal life and their own interests while keeping up with school and, all of the different demands on them. And I think that it's very important for mothers to be able to address childhood stress, and it's so very easy to do. So that's one of the reasons why we recommend the BodyTalk Access class. It is a 6-hour course. I always recommend it for mothers because I say, when your child is sick, you shouldn't have to run in to see me all the time. Well, of course, I love to see them. But, it should be something that the mothers are really empowered to do at home. And what we say about BodyTalk Access is that probably 60% of anything that could go wrong with a family on a daily basis could be covered by doing Access 3 times a week. Wow. So we're talking about a 10-minute treatment 3 times a week that can be done on a child or on oneself or any family member. And so that would mean that any stress that the child or the family member was encountering during that time period, any kind of, if they ate some food that, unsettled their stomach a little bit, if they felt like they were coming down with a cold or any kind of, flu symptoms, all of these things can be addressed so easily in a 10-minute treatment. And so we really, really recommend that at the very minimum, that a family has the tool of self-balancing energy medicine, which will help to really enhance the health of the whole family and also reduce doctor visits.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you and everything that you bring to the world and to my life and to our beautiful community.
Oh.
And thanks. We've been talking to awesome people, Dr. Jenna Galipo from To Be Healthy, and all the information, all the details that you need will be under this video and the links below. So thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Paola. That was